What's up, guys? I'm Damp. I am going to run you through another short video series that will cover a lot of the other questions I get on stream regarding provisions, what provisions to take, why do I take so many, how much food do I need, torches, all that kind of stuff. So I'm going to quantify this by saying it is a beginner's guide. I'm going to get a lot of debate from veterans on this, I'm sure, probably a lot of dislikes about I take too much stuff, or I don't take enough of this or that. Everybody has their own play style. This is for beginners, and to make the game a little more fun, I'd say you want to be a little more conservative. And I want to teach you a way that you can maximize the profit you make when you go through a dungeon. So there's three types of dungeons that you're going to run into: short, medium, and long. You can tell if it's short, medium, or long when you get to the provision screen based off of how many stacks of firewood you get. If there are 0, it's short. If there is 1, like this one, it's a medium run. And if you get 2 stacks of firewood, it's a long run. Typically, shortest are the least forgiving, longest are the easiest to do, and mediums are pretty much standard. So the shortest actually tend to be the most difficult. So I'm going to run you briefly through what you would take to the ruins, because that's what this one is. So as we look at provisions you want to take, each dungeon has different things you interact with in the background called curios. A lot of people click all of them. That's a good way to die or stress your party out. I don't recommend it. Later in the game you can do that to maximize, or mid to late game you can do that to maximize some of your profits if you're not really worried about recovery time or stress or what have you. So depending on the curio, you'll have a different interaction, so it might be worth the risk. When you're younger in your development, don't do that. You're going to have a bad time. What you really want to focus on with this, being a newer player, is the stuff you need to take so you can make some more money, make it a little easier on yourself. You can worry about taking risks and stuff later. So I'm going to give you a rundown of a medium dungeon, and this example is the ruins. So with the ruins, you have a few unique things that you'll have in the ruins. Looking in the ruins, there is Altar of Light, Iron Maiden, Suit of Armor, Decorative Urn, Lock Display Cabinet, Confessional Booth, Holy Fountain, Bookshelf, Alchemy Tables, Sarcophagus, and Locked Sarcophagus. Those are all unique to the ruins. Now, did I really need to read those? Probably not, but this is just for the first example. So we're going to run down on some of the things that you get in every dungeon, and that is the unlocked and locked strong boxes, heirloom chests, books, discarded packs, crates, and sacks. So first of all, crates and sacks you can always interact with currently, as of the current build, which is 8116. You can currently always interact with crates and sacks. You don't have to worry about them. Lock strong boxes and unlock strong boxes do have a chance to have a trap. But in the locked ones, you can actually put a key in, and what that'll allow you to do is get the maximum loot roll. So I'm going to teach you guys a little bit about maximum loot rolls and the ruins, and what you want to take in order to accommodate that. So the idea behind properly interacting with the curios is if you put the right item inside of the curio, you will get the max loot roll possible. That means you're going to make more money and make it easier on yourself long term. So you always want to bring some things with you in order to accommodate that. So before we get into the items, let's talk a little bit about food and shovels, because you got to take that every single time. So looking at food, every time you have a stack of firewood, I'd tell you probably want to take anywhere between 10 and 14 food. Now somebody's going to say, oh my god, that's so much food, Damp. I hear about it all the time on stream. Reason I'm telling you this is when you're newer, it's important that if you get a bad layout in your dungeon, meaning you're going to have to backtrack a lot, there's a good possibility you're going to get some crappy RNG that's going to force you to have more food checks. The more food checks you have, the more stress you're going to take if you don't have any food. Eventually it's going to end up you're going to have to leave the dungeon early. So to be safe, food's pretty cheap. I'd recommend taking a bunch of food with you. So let's say we're going to take 20 food. Let's overburden ourselves. So 10 to 14 per stack, I'd say, is a little light. Actually, now that I'm actually thinking of this, so let me go back. Let's take 20 food for you newer players. I'm typically taking between 10 and 14, but I'm fairly experienced. So for a newer player, let's take 20. Sorry for the correction. any medium instance or dungeon you're going to go into, I'm going to recommend that you're going to take probably, as we look at shovels, 3's probably safe for a medium run. 4 would be super safe, but I'd say 3 you're good. Anti-venom. Anti-venom you don't really need in the ruins. The ruins particularly, you do not really have anything that requires anti-venom in order to maximize out your treasure. There are some mobs in there that are going to be a little more dangerous if you don't have anti-venom. They might blight you, but it's limited. So I'd recommend against anti-venom. Bandages. So inside of the ruins, bandages really are only going to prevent bleeding. There are quite a few mobs that will bleed you. So I'm going to recommend that you're going to take, as far as bandages goes, maybe 1 or 2 if you're newer. Typically mid to late game, I don't recommend that you need any. But let's say we're going to take 2 since we're new. Herbs. What would you need the herbs for? So as we look at herbs, the Iron Maiden uses the herbs, and the alchemy table uses the herbs. They're both found unique to the ruins. If you take the herbs, so that's 2 curios, I'm going to say limited, 1 or 2. The Iron Maiden doesn't give you a great chance at getting anything in particular that's great. And the alchemy table, same thing. You don't get a lot of really, really good loot from it, but it's worth taking probably 1 or 2 on a medium dungeon. So in the newer game, I'd say take 1 and then move on. So as you look at skeleton keys, there are, in the ruins, you have the chance to have a locked strongbox, an heirloom chest, locked display cabinets, and locked sarcophagi. So, or sarcophagus, sorry. Well, actually, it's sarcophagi because there's multiples. Hashtag grammar. So we're going to actually take between 3 and 4, again, depending on your money that you're sitting at currently. On a medium run, I usually like to take 4, so we'll stick with that. We look at holy water and what you need in a ruins run. Looking at holy water, what it can interact with is the altar of light, which would give you a 30% damage buff, which is pretty good. That's worth it. You'd also have the decorative urn, which will give you some pretty good treasure out of it. It tends to drop a lot of gems. The confessional booth heals stress, which is awesome. And the holy fountain gives you a random buff as well. So I'm going to tell you to take 4 holy water also when we look at that. So a conservative number when you're early in the game, you're going to take 3. So the next thing we come to is torches. So torches are another thing that's up for debate. Inside of a dungeon, you are going to use your firewood to camp. When you camp, you will max out your light. So the amount of torches you're going to bring into a dungeon are based upon really how easy you want it to be. The easier it is, the less loot you'll get. So the more torches you bring, the less loot you'll get. The darker it is, the more loot you'll get, but the more accuracy and the more accurate and the higher damage the enemy mobs will be. So for our purposes, since we're going to cater to newer players, I'm going to recommend, just to be safe, probably between 10 and 14 torches. So with that, that would be my complete recommendation. This is a medium ruins run on what I'd recommend for newer players. I would change this, if you're more experienced, to this. The reason I say that, you can even lower the food a little bit if you want to. The reason I would say that is, as you grow more confident in your ability later in the game, I always run dark. Currently, darkness is a little bugged. I've been working with the devs trying to help them troubleshoot it, but currently it's bugged. However, I would always recommend running torchless once you understand the concept of the game and you get your A and B teams ready to go, because it's going to really help you maximize loot. So on boss fights, maybe not until you get really late game and you're really comfortable with the mechanics, but up until then, it's a great way to manage your stress because you'll be critting more often as well. You'll get more loot and you'll crit more often. So this has been kind of a general breakdown of what a medium ruins dungeon would look like, and I'm going to go through different scenarios as far as medium, short, and long, and different places as far as the weld, the warrens also. And I'll also have a generic video where we just talk about the provisions in general and what they do. So with that, I'm going to go. Thanks, guys, for watching. Hopefully this has helped you. Check out the guide down below that gives you a link to a spreadsheet that will help you interact with the curios and what I recommend for more experienced players in my strategy guide. I'll link that down below. Thanks, everybody. See ya.